Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trading the Close. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at Verified Investing, and we're going to cover the key things in the day in terms of the trading action, crypto, commodities, as well as stocks, and look into tomorrow. Now, remember, the stock market's closed tomorrow, but we are doing a 2-hour live stream, 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Live questions. You ask the questions. We will give you the answers. So tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, only on the homepage of Verified Investing. This won't be on YouTube. This won't be on Twitter. Only on the homepage of Verified Investing. All right, let's get into the action here, guys. Let's talk about the markets today. Again, if you look at the heat map, very clear, Apple down, NVDA up. These kind of make that Christmas tree, red and green. And what I mean by that is that generally what we see is money flow going from one to the other and then one to the other backwards. So when NVIDIA is up, Apple's usually down. Yesterday we saw NVIDIA down, Apple was up. And that's just the nature of it. What this is, by the way, is computer programs positioned or programmed to basically pull money out of one, go into the other, and vice versa, back and forth. And that's what we have going on. NVIDIA up another 3.5%, though. Incredible upside. It is now the most valuable company, taking over from Microsoft and Apple. So again, NVIDIA at the top of the heap now for market cap in the markets. Now, if you look at the rest of the heat map, you might think, oh, there's going to be a lot of green. No, we're still in a market that is ruled by one main stock with a couple big trillion-dollar names as ancillary beneficiaries or helpers, and that's just the nature of it. Again, you can see actually a lot of red around the charts here, and gray essentially on a heat map represents a neutral-ish type day, up or down a small percentage points. Looking at the data today, Dow is up 50 points, not a big move there. NASDAQ up 7 points, same thing, very quiet price action on the NASDAQ. S&P up 14 points. That's a little bit of a decent move there, but again, percentage-wise, only 0.25%. Oil continues to gain, now north of $80. Gold is having a small bounce today after starting out weaker. And Bitcoin is struggling, guys. This we're going to cover because this is a big deal. If you've been following what I've been saying, is Bitcoin has been struggling, but it's been holding that key line. It is not going to hold unless it gets a big rally in the next few hours into the daily close. Follow me over here. Let's take a look at the price action on the S&P 500. S&P 500 about as quiet as you can get. So remember, the markets, the stock market that is closed tomorrow, and we're basically getting the light volume preemptively for a quiet day on Wall Street or a closed day. What we can see here today is we basically opened around the flat line, and look, this is the entire day. Just a gentle kind of rolling hill the entire day. No sort of price action of significance, just eking out small gains on the markets across the board. Now, I do have some things to show you guys. So number one, yields continue to stay weak. Again, I am in TLT on the long side with Smart Money Stocks and ETFs members. So we are riding that. Remember, TLT tends to go, it goes up when yields go down. And so again, the idea here is just playing the wedge pattern breakdown. There was a classic retrace to the scene of the crime. I actually think yields are going to continue to go lower. That should tell us that the TLT should go higher there. So again, looking for more downside on yields. I think we at least get to 4%, maybe 3.9% before they stabilize and maybe get a more significant bounce. Now, the kicker here is this. We got retail sales today. Retail sales coming in weaker than expected for the second month in a row, which shows us what we already know. Like, if you've been following these game plans, these trading the closes, you already know that the consumers are struggling. Now, listen, high-end consumers that are invested a lot in the stock market, they're doing fine. They're still spending, but it's everyone else that is now tightening those purse strings. And that's what we have going on here, folks. And retail sales confirm that today. Last month was a minus 0.2%. This month they expected plus 0.3 to rebound, and instead it was only up 0.1%. So again, a big miss there, telling us the consumer is hurting and pulling back on spending. And by the way, that has reverberations because all of these companies like Apple, like all of the major companies that sell a product, if consumers are pulling back, how many people do we really think are going to be purchasing $1,000, $1,500 iPhones on this new upgrade cycle? Yes, there's of course going to be some, and there's other ways they can split the payments into a zillion payments like they do now to make you think that it's really cheap. But all in all, it's still more money the consumer is laying out when we're fighting $1.1 trillion in credit card debt, phantom debt from buy now, pay later, all of these other factors, including rent prices and housing prices that are still unbelievably high. And that's the problem that we're facing here. Inflation, food and energy all went up. And again, everything else did as well. All right, let's take a look at a couple other charts. I did want to touch base on Micron today. Looks like Micron got a little bit of a bid into the end of the day, but there's a huge trend line here. Look at this trend line on Micron. From all of these lows along here, then it breaks below. We tag it right here. We come back down, and we just tagged it today. Now, I was watching for a topping tail, but I've got to look at this. I got to zoom in here now that we've closed and see if we have an official topping tail. It looks pretty darn close. I don't know if it fits the criteria perfectly, but notice how you got this long tail up top with a close back below that trend line. That is a bearish signal, although again, I don't think it quite fits the criteria for a topping tail, but the trend line's still the trend line, and you still got to sell from the wick or the tail that really popped through that. So just a little bit of an interesting chart there on Micron. It may spell a pullback coming in Micron. Whether or not that comes in the other semiconductors, honestly, I don't think we really know at this point, as NVIDIA remained very strong. So if we look at NVIDIA closing at 135.66. I mentioned this before. This stock, again, basically taking over, or for the first time taking over, the most valuable company out there, especially on a closing basis. Incredible when you look at the run that it's had this kind of one pullback zone right here, and then that next leg up. And again, what are you looking for here to signal a down move? The only thing that I could honestly think of is you're looking for a reversal candle, an engulfing reversal candle, a topping tail, one of those signals, and it has to be on heavy volume, like heavier than what we're seeing these days. Now, volume, I will say this, is volume on NVIDIA has been decreasing like this as price has gone up. That's not the healthiest to see, but still price has been going up, and you got to respect price. There's no doubt about it. All right, a couple other charts here that we should go over. We got to cover Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin, again, a multi-factor support that has been hammered on over and over again. Right now, if we were to close here, this would be a break. Now, again, if that happens, it makes the chart vulnerable. The bulls are going to get a little nervous. The bears are potentially going to take control, and you do run the risk of Bitcoin getting a bigger down move here, right? So again, we're looking at downside maybe back to about the 52,000 level on the chart. So just something to keep an eye on there. Again, we haven't closed the day yet, so maybe somehow it gets saved, but this would not be a good close should Bitcoin close in this range. And by the way, overnight we saw a bunch of cryptos, the altcoins getting slammed as well. Bitcoin dominance has continued to stay very, very strong, as again, Bitcoin is the one that everyone's gravitating to because it's the safest, it's the most secure, it's the one being adopted by the most institutions versus the other coins that, again, are much higher risk. So, by the way, one other thing to note, we do have historical data on Bitcoin in previous stock market tops, and Bitcoin always tops first before the stock market. If you go back to the major highs in 2021, the stock market topped late December going into January. Bitcoin topped in early November. So there's about a six week to 8 week lag. And it's interesting because, again, if you look at this, we're kind of approaching that same time frame where if this does turn out to be the top on Bitcoin, does it tell us about 2 months later we get a top on the stock market? Again, just speculation, but things to keep an eye on. This is all data, folks, that I'm pulling from looking at charts and analyzing charts. Going to the gold chart real quick, let's take a look at what gold is doing. Actually, let's start with silver. Silver, minimal move today. Nothing really to report. Still in this sideways consolidation zone. Again, you do have a lot of support right in this range, so we got to see if silver can hold up. And then if we flip over to gold real quick here, if we take a look here at gold, gold again got a bounce after early selling, but it is still inside of this bearish channel. So the bearish channel, guys, again, still got to respect that. This is still bearish even with the bounce today. However, let's be fair. If we get a move over this line, so see this downsloping line, if price can get up in this range, then it becomes bullish. But as long as we're below that inside of this channel, the bearish probabilities are in favor in that situation. Lastly, oil continues to rally. So again, think about this, guys. We saw that CPI number last week coming in with a nice drop. That was a lot to do with oil being down 9%, gasoline being down 9%. Guess what? We are almost back to a point where oil is back up almost 9% off of those lows. And that's remarkable, right? So if you go to the beginning of May, and I'm just going to do this so look at this. this is basically where we were to start the month of May, and look at where we are. So the month of May this is the data that was reported, right? So in fact, you actually were down here towards the end. But the point being is that we have essentially reversed the downside that helped the CPI number come in so nicely. Now, granted, there were a few other factors there outside. If you looked at core, which is excluding food and energy, but at least regular CPI is going to have pressure to the upside now, which is something we have to monitor as well for that next number that's reported in early July for June. All right, lastly, natural gas. Great bounce on nat gas here, guys. Again, this was a level that we talked about here. Came right into this upsloping trend line, and look at the size of that bounce. Trend lines at work again, a beautiful thing. Now, this is creating a wedge pattern. So what we're going to watch here is as price, let's say price stays in here, as these lines extend out, we'll have to watch to see, does it break up or does it break down? And you should get a pretty major move if it does break to the downside, a big flush out. So watch that as well. Other than that, folks, it was a relatively quiet day led by semiconductors again. ARM Holdings, Micron, Dell, anything to do with AI was doing very, very well today, and that's been the story, honestly, pretty much all year and even last year. And on that note, folks, just a reminder, tomorrow at 9 a.m., go to verifiedinvesting.com live show. There'll be a question box where you can type in your questions for us to analyze. You'll see us live in this studio, a little bit of a different setup, but we will be answering your questions for 2 hours tomorrow since the stock market's closed, 9 a.m. Eastern Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see you there. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.